Jason Jarvitz, or JJ as my friends call me, is my name. As an engineer, I work for an oil service firm that develops technologies that enable remote offshore platform control. We have been married for 24 years. I am 44, and my wife, April, is 46. She works in a chemical lab part-time. While studying mechanical engineering at Texas A&M, we crossed paths in college. It was ironic that we met in a psychology class of all things, since her major was biochemistry. We got married right after she graduated, but while I was still in school. We have 2 kids, a boy 22 and a girl 19. I remember our first date, a football game, then out for pizza. Typical average first date, nothing too original. But after the game, on the way to get pizza, we had our first kiss. It was about 3 or 4 dates later in which I felt her melons. We were taking it slow. Before Christmas, we had hot, sweaty, mind-blowing, intimate session. It was when I knew she was the one. As I was leaving a client's office one day, decided that since I was only a couple of miles away, I would eat lunch at my house. As I was turning toward my neighborhood, I saw my wife heading the same direction in her expedition. I honked the horn and waved, but she did not seem to recognize me. This was no big deal since I was in the company car as opposed to my F-250 4x4 truck. I noticed that she had a passenger, who looked to be a younger male, when I turned onto the street behind her. Since I had no reason to suspect anything, I decided to go back and tell her because I thought this was weird. She pulled into our garage and closed the door. I parked about 3 houses down and waited about 10 minutes or so to see when she would come out. When nothing happened, I walked up to the house and peered into the side bedroom window, where there was a slight crack in the drapes. What I saw astonished me, left me heartbroken and angry. My wife was on all her fours. She was definitely enjoying herself with this young man. I have never seen her making noises as much as she was with this bastard. I pulled my smartphone out and started recording the session as I cautiously made my way inside through the front door. My wife was there when I carefully made my way to the bedroom door. As soon as they were finished, I cleared my throat and continued to record. It goes without saying that they were both extremely shocked and terrified. I would soon find out his name was Drew, as this jackass. I was hell pissed off. I figured this would be good for the divorce proceedings. I then picked up his clothes, cell phone, and opened my gun safe and put them in, hanging on to the cell phone. While I was doing this, April and Drew were trying to plead their case to me, but I ignored the bitch and bastard. I was in no mood to listen to them. I took out my 9mm Glock. I also removed his driver's license from his wallet. While I asked Drew to follow me into the living room, I told April not to move. He followed me, and I said I wanted to ask him some questions. "How long has this been going on?" I demanded. He said, "About a year, for once or twice a week." I asked, "How often do you guys meet?" Drew replied, "Not that often, but every couple of weeks." I was becoming extremely angry because here was this young, attractive fool who had slept with my witch wife, and he was talking to me like I was asking him about the football game on Sunday. I was going to learn everything about the activities that this guy and my wife engaged in. I asked, "Did she ever give you VJ and swallow the white liquid?" To which he replied arrogantly, "Hell yeah, she did. Never spilled a drop. That bitch, she never does this with me." I told him to go back into the other room and wait. Now my mind turned to vengeance, and I decided revenge was the best course of action. I can be a real asshole when I want to be. I picked up his cell and found his home number on speed dial. His wife answered on the 4th ring. I explained to Drew's wife who I am and why I was calling. I told her my wife, April, works with her husband, Drew, and that she needed to come to my house right away. She arrived about 15 minutes later, to which Drew did not know that I had called her. While waiting on his wife to arrive, I went back to the bedroom and told Drew to screw my wife again, as I wanted to watch. I told them that I thought things over and that I wanted to participate, especially to watch my wife with a younger guy. They started. As they were warily going at it, still was carrying my Glock, I heard a car drive up. I went to answer the front door before it had a chance to ring. Christy, Drew's wife, followed me into the house and immediately inquired about the situation. She watched the two of them in the bedroom when I took her there. She bolted to the bed and started beating the living daylights out of them both. I held her down gently. I needed to talk to my wife, so I asked her and Drew to kindly come to the living room. April began to tear up and pleading how she loved me and only me. She said she would do whatever it takes for me not to leave her. I asked her the same questions I had asked Drew. Amazingly, I got the same answers. I explained to her that I could no longer trust her and was going to file for divorce. She begged me not to and to give her another chance. I explained to her that she did things with Drew she never did with me and that she could never take that back. She said she would agree to do anything I wanted, just let her stay, and she loved only me, the same old bullshit most cheating wives say to their husbands. I said I need to think about this for a little while. I walked back into the living room where Christy and Drew were quietly having it out. She was asking, "Why? Why did you do this?" Drew said, "This is something that just happened, and also April would swallow and love from behind as well." Christy went on to say, "You knew when we married that I would not do those things." Her comment gave me an idea. I went back to the bedroom and asked April why this happened. She said they were working on a project together, and since I was gone a lot, and she was lonely, one thing led to another, and they enjoyed it. I know I have been gone a lot, but I still couldn't understand why she felt she had to bang some other guy. I am 6'1" and weigh 210. I run 3 to 5 miles a day about 4 to 5 days a week to keep myself in shape. Plus, I also work out, and working offshore also keeps me in shape. Granted, my rod is average, about 6 long and about 3 around, but I do know how to use it. April is about 5'2" and weighs about 130. She is 36C, 26, 38, and a little thick, but after 2 kids, who would not have a little be extra around the waist, still looks to be about 35. She has medium-length brown hair and a beautiful smile. So I can see why Drew wanted to be with her. Drew is about 5'11" and weighs about 160. He has short hair and nerdy looking. His manhood is about the same as mine, maybe a little bigger, so that can't be the reason April wanted him. Christy is about 5'4" and maybe 100 pounds. She looks mousy, if you know what I mean, so I really did understand why Drew would want to cheat on her. I told her that this is what was going to happen. If she wanted to act like a bitch, she was going to do it for me. If she did not agree to my terms, I would file for divorce and send the video to her work, where they would both probably be fired, also to her relatives and friends as well. She asked what the terms were. I told her, since this had been going on for about a year, that the next 75 times we had intimacy, at my discretion, it would be up her ass. She was supposed to swallow each time she provided me VJ at least 3 times a week. If I got a wild idea and wanted to throw warm liquid in her mouth, she would have to drink it. She was no longer to wear clothes around the house except jewelry and heels. Exceptions could be made for guests. Except the pizza delivery guy, I have to throw in a fantasy or two. I also told her that anything else I came up with, she would have to agree. I also stated that I needed to exact some kind of payback for Drew, and that it was up to her to convince Christy to let me sleep with her while she and Drew watched. Finally, she had to quit her job and have no further contact with Drew ever again. April decided that she had no choice but to agree and acknowledge the fact she brought this on herself. She did ask why Christy needed to be a victim, as well as she did nothing to deserve this. I explained that by becoming one, she will probably hate Drew for the rest of his life. Plus, I just wanted to have an excuse to have her one time. April asked me to send Christy in so they could talk. I told Christy that April needs to speak with her. Christy angrily said she would kill the witch before she would talk to her. I explained that it would be in her best interest to do so. Christy reluctantly went into the bedroom. I stayed close to prevent any bloodshed. April explained to Christy the terms of my deal. She said that if Christy refused, then the deal was off. Christy's responded, "So what? That is your problem, not mine." April went on to explain, JJ would send the video to the lab, and Drew would be fired. You would not have health insurance for your 2 kids. Drew may have trouble finding another job. Things for a young couple are tight anyway, as you know. Christy decided to speak with me. I told her I hated for her to become a victim, but I needed some kind of retribution on Drew. Surprisingly, she agreed with me and said we should make it good. She whispered something in my ear and said she would not think any less of me if I would not agree to it. I had to laugh out loud and told her it was okay. I had a newfound respect for this woman. Christy asked me to call April into the living room, and she said she has her own terms. She said she would agree for this, but it was going to be more than once. She decided that since she might divorce Drew, she and I would get together when either one of us wanted to, if I would agree. She said Drew had to watch as she gave up her back cherry to me, and that turnabout is fair play. He had to watch as she gave me VJ, but it would take a while for her to learn to swallow. I agreed to this since I was finally having my ultimate fantasy come true, was doing from behind. True, I wish it was my wife who I was about to do this to, but this is the second best thing. Drew was quite surprised by her final term. Drew's eyes got as big as saucers as I put on a protection. Christy and I did about 3 times in front of the other 2. Drew actually threw up seeing his wife and me, especially with how much she was enjoying herself, much to his dismay. April just watched and cried. She did carry out the terms of our agreement, and after a year or so, we are starting to get closer again. 6 months later, Christy filed for divorce from Drew. Later, I introduced her to one of our other engineers whom I knew to be a nice guy. They will be getting married in a few months. Christy and I have turned our relationship into friendship out of respect for her impending marriage. I know you're asking why I didn't just throw April out. However, I simply lacked the heart after 25 years of marriage. My daughter is still perplexed as to why her mother stopped dressing, so I just chuckle when I think about it. What's your opinion about OP? Thanks for joining us in our stories where revenge is served hot. Please consider subscribing to our channel to ensure your next chef remains loyal. Tune in for the next one to get your revenge appetite fulfilled. If you're below 18, hold on, it's not for the faint-hearted.